Guys, now
I'm very angry.
can I please present the polar opposite of leaflet? Okay? Now I'm going to present the polar opposite of leaflet. Okay? Informative, shorter video. All right. Actually funny. Does his research. Doesn't hide behind a lolly VTuber. All right. Like a coward. Okay? Isn't conservative slop. Just better in every way. Okay? A man. All right? Doing manly things. Okay, let's
Angry
go.
right now, and it's not for the reason that you would think. A good person would be angry right now because a bunch of people are being
White,
deported from the
yes.
country without due process. When they accidentally deport American citizens, they laugh that off as if maybe these American citizens don't count as American citizens for some reason that isn't to do specifically with the law, but maybe some other way in which these people don't really count as Americans. That's in there, in the hidden part of my anger iceberg. There's a part of it that is simply these people are being treated in ways that is un-American and that we should not accept. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and I'm going to be honest with myself, the biggest source of my anger here is that strategically, this is going to fucking work. It is a series of strategic decisions that do an excellent job of degrading America while putting more power in the hands of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And I mentioned J.D. Vance here because I think, in many ways, he loves this and is good at it. Now, Trump is also good at it. This is like the thing that they are the best at, is finding the rifts in American society and widening them in order to exploit them. So I'm not going to talk about whether I think like immigration has largely been good or bad for America. I mean, it's been largely good. You don't have to believe that to keep watching this video. So here's what happened. If we take the 30,000 foot view and stop looking at like each individual news story as it comes out, here's the broader context. During the administration of the last president, who was a more liberal president, there was a lot of immigration. There were a lot of refugees or people who might be refugees who he said, yes, come into the country. And then we'll slowly, because we don't have a lot.
Wow. Facts and statistics? Whoa. As somebody who has covered anti-SJW content, wow. Facts and statistics? I've never seen that before. Now that's extreme.
A lot of capacity for it, run you through the process of deciding whether or not you're a legitimate refugee and you stay in the country. I think there was a lot of problems with this way of doing things. It feels to me like fixing this or handling it or communicating it well was not on Joe Biden's list of priorities. We could talk about why that might have been. Maybe he was too old to be running the country, but hey, all right, now the liberals are mad at me. Come at me. I'm not going to pretend like I don't feel that I was betrayed by all of the people who were involved in the decision to have Joe Biden run for president a second time. Whatever. You could be mad at me. It was a huge failure. So yeah, you got that, and it's going to be a weakness. It's going to be a way for the right-wing party, who's traditionally anti-immigrant, to come at people and tell stories that are bad. Let's actually look at J.D. Vance talking about this recently with Ross Douthat.
I really do think that social solidarity is destroyed when you have too much migration too quickly. And so that's...
What? Actually showing clips that are relevant instead of letting decoy voice handle everything for you? Wow, couldn't get this from Asmongold.
Not because I hate the migrants or am motivated by grievance. That's because I'm trying to preserve something in my own country where we are a unified nation.
So social solidarity can be destroyed when you have too much migration too quickly, is a thing that he thinks. And so you might then wonder at some of the mechanisms by which that occurs. And one of those might be a president and vice presidential candidate running for office talking about how Haitian immigrants eat pets. Publicly, frequently, in the middle of an election.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Would that be one of the mechanisms by which social solidarity is decreased when there's too much immigration? Is it the immigration that is the problem, J.D. Vance? Or is it perhaps instead that you, a politician, one of the most powerful men in the country, are very happy to use it as a wedge issue to get more attention, to control the narrative, and to get yourself more power? Is that something that we need to like price into immigration? Like, hey, just so you know, we can't do too much immigration, otherwise Assholes like me are going to use it as a wedge issue, tearing to some extent at the fabric of the country while making Americans afraid of people who are working here legally, trying to better themselves and the country so that they can themselves become American citizens, which is a story as old as America. It's just the kind of dishonesty that makes me very upset, because he never says that he thinks immigrants are bad in this interview, but then he will absolutely go on Twitter and say that Haitian immigrants are eating people's pets. And then when that turns out not to have happened, they just move on and ignore it, because the point is the narrative. It isn't true.
The point is to make lies faster than the lies itself can be debunked. The point is that misinformation and disinformation spreads faster than our capability to understand them in time. The point is that their plan to move America to a more fascistic authoritarian state moves faster than our ability to realize what's going on.
Anyway, that's a part of my anger here, is the dishonesty and the mealy-mouthed BS.
Yeah, Zoo is right. It can take 30 days to prove a lie that took 30 seconds to say. Yes.
That these people get away with. But the bigger piece, the real reason
in that time, they have already made 200 more lies.
For my anger is that strategically, this is gonna work. And here's the strategy. First, do deportations, but do it in a way where you have the least possible regard for people's humanity and also their rights. So suspend due process. Say illegal immigrants don't get due process. Now, how do you determine?
Think it's so smart? No. You're so smart. Okay. We're all smart here. Right?
Whether they are illegal.
You guys are smart people. I want you guys to be smart people. I want you guys to think for yourselves. All right? Sorry, not think for yourselves, but have the correct methodology to come to the right opinion.
Illegal immigrants in that process, I don't know, because you're not doing due process. When you accidentally deport American citizens, what do you do in that situation? You laugh about it. When the Supreme Court tells you you have to bring those people back, tell them you're not so sure about that. Kick off a little constitutional crisis. Every step along the way, do things that are like just illegal enough and just immoral enough that many people will feel that there is no alternative but to protest in force, not only protest to make their voices heard, but to literally try and stop law enforcement and ICE from doing what they have been told to do. At which point you have a rule of law problem. Can the person who has been told to do something in the chain of command not do their job because there's a person in front of them? At that point, you have that conflict, and you're very, very close at that point to a riot. You do your best to be as immoral and illegal about it as possible, to make it so that many people believe that the right thing to do is to stop an ICE agent from doing what they have been told to do. So you have two people who feel that it is their obligation to do opposite things in a physical space, and so you have actual conflict, and that erupts in violence. Now, people will say they could just do it non-violently, just put on suits and march through the streets. But if you think that these policies and the suspension of due process is illegal, which, by the way, the Supreme Court does too, then it makes sense that you might physically try and stop a person who thinks they are enforcing the law from breaking the law. This is a situation that inevitably will create conflict, and in my opinion, this is a situation that is intended to create conflict. But here's what we now have. We have sides. You can be on the side that's seen this video, or you could be on the side that's seen this picture. And those are two different sides, and they love sides. This is strategically fantastic. It is excellent. Control the narrative, look strong, have our opponents look like they're defending violence and attacks on the country. The strategy is very good, but you can only implement it if you don't care about the rules of the nation, which include due process. I'm editing this video and I need to pop in here because I keep saying due process. The Supreme Court says it's important.
And the mask has slipped for many. Aspen Gold doesn't care about due process. I don't think people like Leaflet or Kershay or Naxanora care about due process. The very foundation this nation has been on is no longer believed in, and I'm very sad about it.
It's important. You can't not do it. But I'm not saying why, and I need to say why. Because if you can grab somebody off of the street and deport them without checking to see whether or not they are in this country legally, then that's just kidnapping. And so it makes sense to me, if that's literally what the president is saying he wants to do, that some people would try to physically stop ICE from implementing that policy. The way that the president of the United States talks about this makes it pretty clear to me.
Let's make it very clear, okay? People don't want people to be kidnapped by state authority, okay? Dragged away screaming in the middle of the night. A Stalin has had his 5th nightmare about his closest associates backstabbing him. This is no different from that era, okay? Dictators having fits of paranoia, which then leads to actions in which people are dragged off to the gulags to rot. Okay? This is no different from any dictator who decides to create the problems that then they are trying to fix with their own power. Okay? Reminder that there was an immigration bill in Congress that would have limited asylum claims, but Trump pressured Republicans to drop support for it. Yes. Always remember that. When somebody tries to talk about how much Trump has secured the border, just remember it's all baloney. Why? Because at some point, when Biden was president still, there was a bill that was said to be a border bill that would secure the border. But Trump convinced Republicans to not vote for the bill. Why? So then he has a problem that he can then take credit for cleaning up the moment that he enters office. This is why whenever Piers Morgan talks about this is why whenever Piers Morgan brings up the fact that Trump has solved the immigration issue, it's all baloney, okay? They created the cancer that they are now inventing the cancer cure for, okay? Don't be a sheeple.
That he just wants to pick people up off the street and send them away without checking to see whether or not they are here legally or whether or not they are American citizens. And I'll let you listen to what he has to say on this topic yourself.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It might say that, but if
Well, I wonder why Decoy Voice doesn't show this. Maybe it's because, well, you know, our own president acts stupider than the protesters that he constantly shows in his videos. Maybe we should hold our own president to a higher standard than all the cringe protesters that you're showing on video. Maybe this is what you should be focusing on, you know, the behavior of our own president. But no. I guess we gotta focus on the 56 protester that sings. Okay, but okay.
If you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
I'm a little sick of being like, what's the Constitution say? And not, why does the Constitution say what it says? So I think it's important to say, if you don't have to have a process by which you deport someone, you can deport anyone. And that's not deportation. It's a blank check for doing whatever you want to anyone in this country. It's the kind of thing that if it were being suggested by a Democrat would be seen immediately for what a lot of people are afraid it is in this case, which is just a way to attack anyone you don't like in such an extreme manner that many people will.
God, he's so fucking based! How can one man ever be this based? God, I fucking love Hank Green, dude.
They'll simply stop criticizing this administration at all. I just think we need to take a step back and remember why we have laws in this country. It's not because somebody wrote it down. It's because they were good ideas. It is a good idea to not let the government punish someone without checking to see whether they did a crime first. And yet,
you know, I'm beginning to think that the Republicans don't actually care about the Second Amendment. Because the Second Amendment is literally made for situations in which stuff like due process is ignored. Federal agents are taking away people in unmarked vans, and for ignoring due process and for a tyrannical government, okay? But we don't see any of these NRA Second Amendment types anywhere because they are complicit, okay? But
Yet they seem to be trying to build this case that the courts are somehow this new
what was even the point of the Second Amendment at this point? Or what's all the point of like advocating ever for the Second Amendment if you're not willing to use it? Like, what the fuck?
problem. They are standing in the way of what the president legally should be able to do. JD Vance keeps getting up on stages and
In Minecraft,
saying that like the courts are stopping the president from doing what he is constitutionally bound to do. And I'm like, you haven't read the document, my guy. What do you mean? The Supreme Court is the one responsible for enforcing the document, not the president. That's how we set it up. Balance of powers is good. And one person having all the power is bad because that's a king and there should not be kings. That's how we started this out, man. I know you've been reading all that Curtis Yarvin. You think maybe monarchy is cool now, but it's not. That's not what we did. I still believe in this country. And I know a lot of you people watching this don't anymore. I still believe in this country. And when you do this shit, it makes me believe in it less. Like eventually I won't anymore. And that's makes me fucking mad. And because it's a good strategy, one thing I know as a strategist, you don't stop pushing good strategy until it stops being good strategy. And so I don't see any reason why they would stop doing this because they want riots. They want violence. They want conflict. They want deeper rifts in society. That's the goal. And so of course they're going to keep doing this. And they will do what they can to make it more inflammatory so that people are more likely to protest and more likely to have those conflicts that result in outbreaks of violence. I love LA, man. I used to hate LA, but I love LA. Like I came around eventually. There's good people there. It's a big city, big diverse city. Crazy number of people. I live in Montana. We have like 10 times fewer people in our whole state. I got a fair number of Fox News viewers in my life, and they think that LA is, they're like scared for me when I go to LA. This is of course ludicrous, but being able to
bro, this Hank Green video is making me patriotic again, okay? God, he is spitting so hard. I love this man with my life, okay? He makes me feel proud of things, okay? That's something a lot of YouTubers cannot do, all right? He makes me feel as though there is something out there that is worth fighting for, okay? All right, he makes me feel good. He seems very politically naive. He does seem to believe in bad actors or corruption. That's fine. I don't care, okay? He's based.
push this narrative is going to make him so scared.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of progress.
And Los Angeles was the right place to do it, but it won't be the last place. I just feel like this is so good for them that they will do it wherever they can. Because when the Constitution doesn't matter to you, when people's rights don't matter to you, that's really scary because that means that theoretically anyone, but we all know why I feel safe and other people don't. Theoretically, though, anyone could be deported and then it accidentally turns out that was an American citizen. I'm not worried about that. Why? Let's ask ourselves why. We know why. I count as an American for some reason that you can articulate, whereas another American citizen.
You say you're an American? What kind of American? What kind of American are you?
Might feel like less of an American to some people. If you don't care about that stuff, or I think even maybe more fundamentally, you don't care about the country holding itself together to progress toward a better future, and you're more interested in fanning flames and deepening rifts and taking advantage of people's fear, this is a great strategy. And I am angry because ultimately, deeply, even more than anything about the future of America, and like just to be totally honest here, like there's a component of jealousy to my anger because this is strategically a great move. And I'm jealous that people who I think would do a better job of leading the country don't have access to a move like this and also don't have a counter move that works well against it. The thing that I keep coming down to is like over and over is that like maybe there's a strategy here where we just keep reminding people that what these people want is for Americans to be more afraid of each other and of their world. And they want Americans to be on sides. They want to create more sides so that they can exploit that conflict. And that just does so much.
His message seems superfluous, pretentious, without saying nothing new. How? He is literally detailing out how the United States government under Donald Trump is specifically trying to deepen and widen the rifts. He said immigration is good. And yeah, like like sure, maybe he isn't saying anything new, okay? But he puts it in a good way, okay? He puts it in a good speech, all right? In my opinion, he's spitting, all right?
Much damage to the country. They just don't care how much they hurt the country as long as it brings them a little more power. There's like this guy on
Don't kill the part of you that is cringe, okay? Kill the part of you that cringes.
Twitter who talks about like men's clothing, and he makes fun of conservatives sometimes. They call him the menswear guy. And this person says, the menswear guy just openly admitted on here that he's in America illegally. JD Vance, I know you're reading this, and you have the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. We got Jack Nicholson nodding yes here. I just never know, and this is part of the strategy. I never know if he's like, yes, I will absolutely use the power of the federal government to go after my enemies specifically, or if he's just making a cute little joke on Twitter. And I think that's part of like why when he posts things like this, he gets to like have a little giggle to himself, because he knows we don't know. Only he knows. And that's a special kind of power that he gets to have as the Vice President of the United States. And I'm sure in his mind, the future president. If we let that happen. To wrap up my wrap up here, it is 24 hours after I recorded that video, and I'm feeling a little bit of less certainty about whether or not this strategy is as good as they think it is. I don't know if it is possible to show the peaceful elements of this protest enough that it breaks through to like the, you know, the sort of middle. It certainly isn't going to reach
It can't. You can show, like, honestly, you can show statistics, you can show facts. You can show 12 hours, 3 days worth of peaceful protests. And I think it would be useless. Something else has to be done.
the people who are like only inside of the Fox News ecosystem, but like maybe it can reach a lot of other people with the reality that there's a lot of grandmas here, there's a lot of peaceful protesting here, and also there's a really legitimate thing to be protesting here. I saw a video on TikTok from a young man that I'm going to put in the description that if you have watched this video all the way through, I really think you should finish this content viewing session with his video.
Oh fuck, we need George Floyd protests 2.0, okay? That's what we need at this point. We need George Floyd protests 2.0. Oh fuck.
I'll try and find it more than just on TikTok because I know not everybody has TikTok, but oftentimes you can watch TikToks even if you don't have the app. I was feeling really hopeless yesterday. That was part of my anger. And watching his video reminded me that this is part of the thing that we're doing right now. Like, this is going to be a long process of Donald Trump being president and doing his best to accumulate more and more power. Is this particular issue going to be one that he's winning on for the most part for a while? Probably. But the deeper story here is actually compelling, and I think has an advantage in that it also
Saying that they are deporting US citizens when that has never happened yet. Okay, stop right there. It has happened. And I'm pretty sure I've gone over it on stream before. They have deported US citizens. So I don't know why you're saying this, but okay.
is the truth. So watch this young man's video. I learned quite a bit from it. It's linked in the description.
Please, no, stop. Not again. Has Trump deported U.S. citizens yet? Several American citizens were detained and deported. Administration practices have faced legal issues and stoked controversy with lawyers, judges, and legal scholars. Wikipedia. This is very frustrating, dude. Several American citizens were detained and deported. Those actions against hasn't received American edition. Washington Post. Okay. Yes, Wikipedia. It's an aggregator. Okay. Wikipedia is a collection of sources from legitimate sources. All right. That's how Wikipedia works, okay? It's never just from Wikipedia. Wikipedia itself is not a news source. It's about what sources Wikipedia takes its sources from, okay? As Trump cracks down on immigration, U.S. citizens are among those snared. For one man, it happened when he stepped out of Chicago pizza shop after an afternoon of job hunting. Job hunting. For a 10-year-old girl and her siblings, he began at Border Patrol checkpoint in South Texas as their family rushed to a hospital. For a man in Virginia, it started with immigration agents surrounding his truck, guns in hand. All those people are U.S. citizens who are detained, deported, or otherwise swept up. Detained, not deported. No, deported. Detained and deported, okay? Detained. I'm sure some were detained but not deported. I'm sure some were detained and deported. I don't know why you're arguing with me on it. You know what it feels like? It feels like you're desperately trying to find any angle to defend Trump. Okay, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're literally trying to find every possible angle. You're fighting me on every single possible point. You're not just simply going, you know what, Foodshops, you were right. Okay, and honestly, I should have done more research. Okay, you're fighting me on every point. For what? For what? And you say you're a centrist? Give me a break. Okay, I think I'm done. I don't think I owe you this much like good faith anymore, dude. I'm sorry. Like, I'm tired of it. Okay. Okay. Like, do you know how many times at this point I did the Googling for you? It's like it's actively painful at this point. All right. Pathetic. Why I'm mad right now? Yeah. Because you're not telling the truth. This is like you saying that I'm not telling the truth on 1 + 1 = 2. That's literally that's literally what you're saying. This stuff has already been reported before. I'm sorry that it didn't show up on your news feed, I guess, right? I'm sorry that your news feed doesn't let you show when American citizens have been deported, okay? But this is a commonly accepted thing, all right, that a lot of people have already accepted, and only now I am educating you on this. It is frustrating, okay? This isn't a lie. This isn't a whatever. All right. Point to me in one case. No, I don't owe you this anymore. Nah, I have nothing to prove to you anymore. Do you know how many times I have Googled for you at this point? And then I feel like you're literally trying to trigger me on purpose. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're trying to trigger me on purpose. You're trying to get a reaction out of me so then I can do Googling for you so that you can get what you want. Okay, but okay. All right, dude. Okay, fine. After one, we're done. Okay. Google says it, Washington Post says it, Wikipedia says it. Like what do you want me to bring up? Project Veritas, Epoch Times, Newsmax? Is that valid for you? How about this? Can I bring up a source that is different from Washington Post? Will that satisfy you? Two children, including a 4-year-old boy who has cancer, deported with their mother to Honduras. NBC News reports that according to a lawyer with the National Immigration Project, the two children ages 4 and 7 were put on their mother's deportation flight the day after they are all detained on April 24th. Two U.S. citizen children were sent on their mother's deportation flight to Honduras without the opportunity to speak with attorneys, leaving a 4-year-old boy with stage 4 cancer without access to his medication, according to the National Immigration Project. Gracie Willis, an attorney with the organization, told NBC News that the boy and typo, his 7-year-old sister were detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Thursday. They were taken to El Paso, Texas, and flown to Honduras first thing Friday morning, Willis said. The 4-year-old boy, who was actively receiving treatment for a rare form of cancer, was flown to Honduras without his medication, according to Willis and the National Immigration Project. Attorneys were preparing a habeas corpus petition when the children were taken out of the U.S. on an ICE charter flight before the petition could be filed, Willis said. I actually hate how you insult my intelligence. Like, I actively think at this point you're convincing me, like, you are literally convincing me that you're either a self-hating Mexican or that I am somebody who is a fucking low IQ Asian American, okay? Both of which are cooked, all right? So take your pick, all right? Because I fucking hate how you're treating me this way, okay? It fucking sucks, all right?